Good morning. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your attendance today at the 2024 meeting, April 2024 meeting of the Tennessee Fish and Wildlife Commission, the beautiful Carnegie Hotel in beautiful Johnson City, Tennessee. At this time, I'd like to ask Mr. Tommy Woods to lead us in the invocation and the pledge, please.
Look around at your creations. Thank you so much for that. We just pray that what we do here today will be the right thing. Continue the outdoors that we enjoy so much. Thank you for the time together with all of our family and our friends and all the new folks in and for all these things we pray in the name of Jesus. Amen. Pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you for that, Commissioner Woods. I'd like to welcome our guests today. You got Mr. Travis Rogers, Mary Miller, Kim Woods, Tommy Woods' brother, sitting in the front row by Mr. Woods' wife, Tammy. Welcome, Tammy and Kim. Terrence Rose, Mike Jones, and Richard Brown. Welcome to all our guests today, and thank y'all for being here. Y'all been distributed. Oh, first, let's go to the roll call, Mary, real quick.
Monty Blue.
Here.
Brad Box. Stan Butt.
Here.
Wally Childress.
Here.
Bill Cox.
Here.
Greg Davenport.
Here.
Chris Devaney.
Here.
Ford Little.
Here.
Rhonda Moody.
Here.
Chip Saltzman.
Here.
Tommy Woods.
Here.
Hank Wright.
Here.
Jimmy Granbery.
Here.
Chairman, we have a quorum.
Thank you, Mary. Commissioners, you've been distributed the minutes. Can I entertain a motion for approval, please?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any questions or discussion or corrections to the minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Minutes are approved. Director Maxedon, you have a report, please, sir.
Yes, sir, I do. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning, members of the commission. Today, I wanted to take a moment to remind folks what happens after the season-setting vote. Every year, the agency publishes 350,000 copies of the Tennessee Hunting and Trapping Guide and the same number of fishing guides. In an effort to more effectively use license dollars this year, the agency is going to shift to producing 2 publications and 1 combo Tennessee Hunting and Fishing Guide. This is to better account for the dramatic increase in printing efforts and also just to make it easier for our users, including local license vendors, sporting goods stores, of course, our TWRA regional offices. The Fisheries Division will also adjust the calendar on its future season-setting processes so that all hunting and fishing regulations will be effective for the same dates. That's going to be August through July, which we believe will support customers and staff. Our Communication Division has already started informing the public of the change and will continue to put out information about the season-setting decisions made today for customers to stay informed about the agency's work. Key dates for hunting and fishing will also be published in the agency's wildlife calendar, which has returned to its traditional August-July format to match our season setting. Like usual, we had thousands of photo entries from the public for the calendar contest, and folks can be on the lookout for the great publication this summer. Commissioners, lastly, I just want to say thank you. Obviously, you spent a lot of time preparing for this meeting. Most folks don't know, but there's countless hours and days that go into informational meetings. We did a new season setting process called Adaptive Harvest Management this year. So thank you for all the hours, days, and time you put into learning this process, all the calls that you've received, all the public comments that you've read, and all the preparations you've made for this. Also, just say thank you to the staff. Our staff have put countless hours. The team was actually up till almost midnight making the adjustments last night from yesterday's vote presented to you today in that format. But thank you to the staff. You've put countless hours into this. Thank you for the hard work. We've got a new process that I think is probably the best the agency's ever done with the adaptive harvest management. So greatly appreciate all your hard work in getting us to this point. With that, Mr. Chairman, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Director. Director Maxson. I would like to reiterate what the director said, and thank you to staff. I know this is a lot of hard work. Thank you to our fellow commissioners for all your hard work and your preparation for this meeting. It is important for what we do as a commission. I also like to just point out, yesterday was one of those moments when Mr. Smith came to talk about the trespassing, and that this agency can assist him in that manner. And I think we'll get to a good resolution over time. And that was very helpful to me to see how that all worked together with us and him and our great law enforcement and local law enforcement. This time, thank you, Director Maxson. At this time, I'd like to call Lieutenant Colonel Dale Grandstaff to the podium, please, for a presentation. And we'll take pictures at the first break on this, Dale. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Granbery. It's always a privilege to get to speak on some of our officers and some of the great work that they're doing. And today we're going to speak about the Shikar-Safari Club International Tennessee Wildlife Officer of the Year. It's Officer Justin Pinkston. Before I go any further, I just want to recognize his leadership that are here today. We have Sergeant Rusty Thompson, Captain Tim Sane, his Lieutenant Brian Kegley, and his Major Shelley Hammonds are with us today. Wildlife Officer Justin Pinkston is our Shikar-Safari Wildlife Officer of the Year for 2023. Justin grew up in Mohawk near Lick Creek, WMA in Greene County, and went to West Greene High School. He graduated from Tennessee Tech with a bachelor's degree in wildlife and fishery science in 2019 and was hired on that same year with TWRA as the Jefferson County Wildlife Officer. He and his wife, Allie, are here with us today. They were married this past year in October of 2023. He enjoys hunting and fishing with his wife, as we are here with us today. They were married this past year in October of 2023. He enjoys hunting and fishing with his wife, as well as with his dad. He started working for this year. Officer Pinkston patrolled District 42 counties, lakes, rivers, streams, and access areas, as well as adjacent wildlife management areas by motor vehicle, ATV, and on foot, promoting the safety and well-being of hunting, fishing, and boating public. Arrest. He has answered 118 CAD calls for service and responded to 31 incidents. Justin was the lead investigator in 8 boating accidents. Justin does an outstanding job presenting his cases in court and is well respected by all the officials in his local court system. He has also represented the agency on multiple occasions in his community by teaching and assisting in agency educational programs. He has instructed or assisted with 12 boater and hunter education courses. With his efforts, 317 students graduated from these programs. Officer Pinkston had 8 other public outreach events. He assisted in preparing the display at the Appalachian Fair and spent a night working in the booth, contacting over 500 people from the local area. He assisted in multiple press releases, including Operation Drywater Press Conference that included other local and state law enforcement, prosecutors, state legislators, and accident victims. Justin also realizes the importance of training. He is always willing to take on a new skill or technique and excels at the training level. He was selected and completed Advanced BUI, Boat Accident Investigation Level 2, Firearms Instructor, and Advanced Interview and Interrogation Techniques classes within the supervision job, and the people of his community is recognized. And I'd like to just read a few words from Shikar-Safari International. To Justin, says, Dear Officer Pinkston, congratulations on being chosen as the outstanding 2020 Officer of the Year for Tennessee. To be selected the best in one's peers, 3 Shikar-Safari Club International Outstanding Wildlife Officer of the Year. Wildlife conservation is one of the primary concerns of our worldwide membership. A principal purpose of which the club was organized involves the protection, enhancement, and preservation of wildlife species, with particular emphasis on endangered and threatened species. We believe we can advance this purpose by encouraging and promoting the enforcement of conservation laws and regulations. Being selected for this prestigious award places you in a very distinguished group of officers nationwide who have achieved recognition because of their outstanding performance and dedication to duty. All too seldom, outstanding wildlife officers receive the recognition and encouragement they so richly deserve for protecting and preserving our wildlife. We in Shikar-Safari Club International hope that by presenting this award each year, we can make a worthy contribution to this important work. Our membership joins me in wishing you continued success and the conservation of our nation's most precious natural resources, our wildlife. That's from the Shikar-Safari Club International. Justin, come on up. We'll step out there in front. We were just talking. He had a.
I got to tell him something.
Go ahead.
So we go through the interview process, right? And he shows up, and one of our first questions at the interview process is, why do you want to be a wildlife officer? And he whooped out in his pocket. He had a piece of notebook paper, 3 years old. How old were you?
Oh, I was 6 or 7.
6 or 7. He had a crayon drawing of a green game warden truck that he carried in his pocket from 6 years old to the day he interviewed. And that's what kind of guy this guy is. He knew at 6 years old and keeping that crayon drawing in his pocket.
Now you know what that
And we're going to take pictures at break, Commissioner.
might take them right now. Hey, Joe, are you ready? You need another minute. I think we're ready. All right, good.
We'll get it at break. We'll get it at break.
We'll get you at break.
Congratulations, Officer Pinkston. I was riding down this morning in the elevator, and he's obviously a very humble young man because he didn't say a word, and I wasn't aware of who he was, and we just chatted up about everything but what you've accomplished as an officer. Congratulations, and an honor well deserved, obviously. All right, it's time to get the season steady. But set up our agenda, ready to go, and commissioners not on the Wildlife Committee heard most of yesterday on the committee day. We will move very slowly and deliberately to ensure that we and the agency staff capture everything that is said in the presentations or amendments or whatever we deliberate and finalize, so they can write it up correctly on the Proc. Procedural matters. First, we will move to the agency's proclamation before the committee. This will be done via a motion and a second. The agency will quickly highlight mandatory items from committee day yesterday. Once we get the proclamation before us via a motion and a second, we will discuss the proclamation and then take amendments as they were referred from the Wildlife Committee. The motions will accept, reject, or modify the amendment from the Wildlife Committee, or make a recommendation of a different motion. If there are no amendments to the proclamation or no objections, I will take a voice vote to approve that proclamation. If there are amendments of any form, I will take a roll call vote to modify the proclamation. Should the modification pass, I will take a voice vote to approve the proclamation. If the voice vote is not unanimous, then I reserve the right to take a roll call vote for approval purposes. We only have 12 members here today, so if it's a 6-6 tie, the amendment fails. Also want to ask that we all speak clearly in the microphone and remember that the agency staff must capture our comments so it furthers our intent. With the ground rules, the Life Committee has presented their amendments and voted on them yesterday. We will take those up with the proclamations. Consequently, also the Voting and Law Enforcement Committee met and had some amendments to their proclamations. So with that said, Chief Benedict, you're recognized.
Good morning, Commissioners. So glad we made it by the skin of our teeth. We had some adjustments in the order that we'll share with you, and we had a computer file malfunction. But we're here today, and I think we have the correct slides. So as the chairman said, we are going to go through each proclamation as we did yesterday. There's been a slight reorder at the request of the chair. We are going to go through each proclamation as we did yesterday. There's been a slight reorder at the request of the chair. We'll show you the slides with the agency recommendation that we presented in March and again yesterday. And then we'll note where there was Wildlife Committee made. And again, we'll request commission action on each proclamation before we move to the next. So the order for today will be the Furbearer proclamation, then manner and means, which is associated with that proclamation, the statewide big game hunting seasons. We will establish the 2 refuges that we proposed yesterday. We'll move into the wildlife management area Proc, taking of Raptors, migratory Gamebird seasons, and finally repealing the Arnold Hollow WMA. Again, just a note there's highlighted, there are some clerical errors, edits rather, in the proclamations that we won't cover today. They don't change the intent of the proclamation. So the first one, statewide Furbearers and commissioners, these are just a very short slide summary. We're happy to take questions as you have them. But the agency recommendation for this proclamation was a single recommendation to remove long-tailed weasels and spotted skunks as legal to take, again, to align with the state listed species list. The committee amended this proclamation to include a nighttime coyote and bobcat hunting season. The information is outlined there as far as the time and the dates and the bag limits. That's the recommendation and the amendment, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Joe, thank you very much. Commissioners, you've heard the presentation and recommendation. Are there any questions or discussions? Yes, sir. Commissioner
Joe,
Cox.
what are the dates for the raccoon hunting is closed? You showed me that yesterday and I've forgotten.
Yes, sir. The raccoon season is closed. Looking at Roger to make sure, but March 15th until the end of June. So it's during the turkey season, just before, and then during the turkey season, and then through June when there's poults that are young that may not be able to fly up into a roost.
When I kind of think I know, but Roger, when do typically poults hit the ground or hatch?
Good morning, commissioners. So the peak of nesting would be, middle of April. So probably the peak of hatching is going to be right around the 1st of May, into basically through May, I would say.
Okay. I anticipated you saying June because that means the hunting season goes 3 weeks into after that they hatch. I didn't think that was, I didn't think we hunted them when the poults were on the ground.
Well, you get you get early nesting. So you're going to have some poults hitting the ground, a month after they first start, which would be, the early part of April. So you're going to have poults starting to be showing up basically the first part of May. And then it's going to crescendo up until a peak sometime in middle to late May, and then kind of a tailing off into June. You'll have poults still hatching later, but most of it's going to be starting in May.
Okay, thank you. Well, obviously, I've talked about this before about year-round hunting of raccoons to try to lower the population, but I certainly don't want to do anything that's going to negatively affect the turkey. So I don't have an amendment. Thank you, Joe.
Anybody else? Okay, commissioners, you've heard the recommendation from the agency staff. Could I get a motion, a second, to move that for approval? Second. Any question or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Now, at this time, we need to move the recommendation to have a motion. Second?
Second.
Any discussion or further amendments to this Wildlife Committee recommendation? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
No.
Mary, would you please call the roll?
Monty Blue,
Aye.
Stan Butt,
No.
Wally Childress, Bill Cox,
Aye.
Greg Davenport,
Aye.
Chris Devaney,
Aye.
Ford Little, Rhonda Moody, Chip Saltzman,
Yes.
Tommy Woods. Hank Wright.
Yes.
Jimmy Granbery.
Yes. Okay, now we need to vote on the proclamation as amended. Do I have a motion? Second?
Second.
Second. Any discussion? Seeing none, Mary, would you please call the roll?
Monty Blue.
Aye.
Stan Butt.
Yes.
Wally Childress.
Yes.
Bill Cox.
Aye.
Greg Davenport. Chris Devaney.
Aye.
Ford Little.
Yes.
Rhonda Moody. Chip Saltzman.
Yes.
Tommy Woods.
Yes.
Hank Wright.
Yes.
Jimmy Granbery.
Yes.
Chairman, the ayes have it.
Okay, Chief Benedict.
All right, the next proclamation for your consideration is 24-11, manner and means of hunting, taking, and trapping. Lieutenant Colonel Dale Grandstaff is here. I will just run through this, and he would be the one we'd call on for questions if we have them. So this proclamation is to establish the manner and means for the nighttime coyote and bobcat season you just established. We went through this yesterday. Landowner permission could be in a couple different formats there. Shotguns only, no single projectile. Methods allowed to be lights, night vision, hand, and other kind of calls. Dogs are not allowed. Mr. Chairman, that's the recommendation.
Okay, y'all have heard the recommendation from the agency. Do I have a motion? Second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I have a question of law enforcement. I heard from somebody was against this, complaining that thermal imaging was going to be used or could be used from the road. Just, can you, I guess it's legal to do that as long as you don't shoot from the road. Is that right?
Yeah, you're correct. They could stop on the road and just scan a field. Yeah.
But unless you had permission, written permission, you couldn't hunt it.
Correct.
All right, I just wanted to put that out there.
Okay, any further discussion or questions? Roll call, just a voice. Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
All right, Commission, the next proclamation we have for you is the Big Game Hunting Season Bag Limit Proclamation 24-10. Opportunities and establishment of a new Bear Hunt Zone 5, and then the training in Bear Hunt Zone 1, 2, and 3. I'll move on to the deer hunting units. This is the recommendation from the agency for the deer management units and the seasons. We'd have two seasons as identified in the two different colors there. One season for unit 1, 2, and 3. A second one for units 4, 5, and 6. Statewide antler bag limit is 2. Again, may be taken in the same unit. Here's the amended recommendation from the committee yesterday, and this just includes pulling out those counties. We labeled it Unit 1, and you'll note that the recommendation from the committee was to keep the regulations in that area consistent with past year's season. So we'd have the August hunt folks would be allowed to use rifles. The season, the gun season would go to the end of January, and then the bag limit would be 3 per day, buck bag limit.
Per season?
I'm sorry, yeah, three per season for analysts. Thank you. The turkey management unit in seasons. This is the agency recommendation. The western part of the state in dark there would be a 3-bird bag limit. The northeast would be in a 2-bird bag limit. Fall season would be open. You can see the dates of the season down there. That's no change from the current wide. And one, they recommended 2 birds statewide, 2 bearded birds statewide. Only one could be a Jake. You'll see the footnote at the bottom. They recommended closing some fall counties in the fall, and also no bearded hens. And they modified the dates slightly for the start date and the youth date to be specifically started on the 1st and then the 2nd Saturday in April, as noted there. And just for your information, we added this. This is a list of counties per the recommendation to close them to fall season. So you'll see the lower Middle Tennessee counties at the top of the list, and the bottom are that west unit. That's what we have for you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, y'all have seen the presentation and the recommendation from the agency staff. Could I get a motion to approve, please, as recommended, to move it to a full vote of the commission?
So moved.
Second? Anybody? Second? Second by Commissioner Woods. All those in favor say aye.
Wait, stop.
No, this is procedural, Bill. We're going to go back to the amendments. That's the next process. So we got it. We're just pushing this forward to talk about the amendments recommended by the Wildlife Committee. So all those in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, now let's start with bear, Joe. Go back to the bear slide. You've seen the presentation from the agency staff. Is there any further discussion on this before we move forward to deer?
Chairman Granbery, I do have an observation and a request of our officers. And I'm for this, or I am going to vote in favor of what's been recommended, but I do want to raise this issue that I have or a question about it. So are contemplating recommending a 2-day gun hunt with dogs in a certain area, as you see on the upper left. And probably like all the rest of the commissioners, I am for expanding the opportunity for folks across the state to hunt. At the same time, I don't think we want to expand one group's opportunity to hunt to the detriment of another group of hunters. And as we recognize, this is during the middle of deer season. And I will tell you that I've benefited from the fact that I've had an opportunity to speak with Mr. Gibbs and then also speak with Mr. Rogers and several others over the last month. And I think this is a good thing that we're going to try. At the same time, I'm concerned that, or I hope that those that are going to take advantage of bear hunting recognize that they have certain responsibilities when it comes to controlling their dogs and where they hunt. And because I don't want to adversely impact deer hunters, and I'll give you an example. If I'm in Cumberland or White County and I'm a landowner and I'm hunting with my son or daughter, etc., and I'm in a deer stand that morning on a Saturday morning, and a pack of dogs and hunters come through who are bear hunting on my property and I haven't given them permission, and the response is, well, I can't control my dogs, I'm going to be really unhappy that morning as I sit up in that deer stand. Same way if am a landowner and I've been nurturing or managing my property like Mr. Smith talked about yesterday, and a certain group of bear hunters come through without my permission. And so from my standpoint, try to make an informed decision. Weekends or other days for the bear hunters to if it doesn't go well, then my request to the officers and Director Maxidon is, I'd like to hear back between now and next spring when we're having this meeting. The local officers tell us how it went, whether there were issues. My guess is there were going to be 1 or 2 or 3 issues that arise. They're just the nature of the beast. There's probably going to be some of that. But if it's more than that, then I think we'll need to reconsider whether this is a good thing or not.
So that, I guess that's my observation, and that's my request of the agency to monitor this, and hopefully it goes smoothly and well, and it's a win-win for everybody.
Thank you, Commissioner Little. Anybody else? Okay, Joe, we'll move on to the deer.
Mr. Chairman, I'm not sure what slide you want me to show. This is the agency recommendation.
Probably the amendment, Joe.
This is the committee amendment here on this slide.
So you've seen the amendment that's coming out of Wildlife Committee, and I would entertain a motion to approve the amendment as presented. Second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Now we'll open up the floor for discussion.
Mr. Chairman, if I might interject. Season currently starts October, so that slide is incorrect. As a committee mentioned yesterday, the intent was to keep things the same. So gun season starts after youth season, and there is no muzzleloader season in that area. So the slide is incorrect. I believe the intent that you had was to keep what we had.
Anybody have any questions of Chief Benedict on that, Commissioner Blue?
You're talking about just Unit 1, right?
This is just for Unit 1 here, correct? Our apologies for that.
Okay, you've heard the motion and the second, and the correction by Chief Benedict and Mark. Any discussion or comments?
Mr. Chairman, I've got a question. Does this change from what the agency recommended? Does it adversely affect the deer management units that were developed? And if so, how?
We believe that this unit, as described, will not greatly impact our adaptive harvest management approach. One of the concerns you might recall from previous discussion is the sample size of the different information pieces we have. Breaking this into Unit 1 and 2 there in Western Tennessee will not compromise that in any way.
Excellent. The 3 antlered bag limit will that be new, or was it that way before?
That's the current unit CW regulations that of last fall. That's the current bag limit, antlered bag limit.
Anybody else have any questions or comments? Commissioner Woods?
Oh, we have CWD positive counties, and in those counties now, you're able to obtain a CWD harvest permit.
Landowner permit, yes, sir.
Correct. Describe what that allows one to do, please, in those counties, and how the proposal from the agency, not the amended proposal, the proposal from the agency would affect those CWD issued permits.
So those are CWD landowner permits. And so if someone is within 3 miles of a positive detection, officers will issue the CWD landowner permit. There's no change to that at all, both with the agency recommendation and this. It's actually not in proclamation. It's a policy of the agency. So there's no change to that program. So those folks that want to, manage deer and take advantage of those additional opportunities will still be allowed to. There'll be no change, again, based on what the agency recommended or the commission, because it's not in this proclamation. It's simply a policy.
Okay, so that allows a landowner or a landowner wishes to bring in to harvest deer. Any limit to that? Any time, day or night? Any restrictions?
Let me ask Mark to come up. There's no limit on the number of animals that can be harvested.
That's right. Good morning, commissioners. So those permits are available year round. There's no limit. There are weapon limits and daytime limits. You can't just shoot them at night. But landowners are able to obtain those year round and harvest deer on their property within that 3 mile radius anytime.
Okay. And And the proposal that the agency recommended again will not affect that whatsoever.
Correct. There'll be no change to that program that we have.
And the reason the agency has made a proposal to basically do away with the terminology CWD is because the agency feels like the hunter participation will increase and therefore hopefully increase. Is that a correct statement?
Let me restate that. The adaptive harvest management process, we proposed some different packages, which included the CWD packages that we have now, the unit CWD packages. We took those packages broader than the focus groups. Folks didn't pick those. They really didn't like those. And we heard from additional public input that folks wanted to go back to more simple regulations like we used to have, right? Like before CW regulations. Our concern, Mark shared this, I believe, in January. Our concern was, whoa, we may not want to do that. So we looked at what the impact of those additional weeks and weapons were. We found that there's not very much difference. While individuals might harvest more deer overall, which is what we look at as a statewide agency, overall harvesting those units was actually not affected by these. So we went back to, well, what did the public want? What do the hunters want? And so simplicity, consistency, and moving away from this sort of a black eye, if you will, in that area. And, you know, we don't know what the motivations are. You know, hunting regulations, with the changes to unit CWD regulations, we were trying to motivate hunters to harvest more deer. And what we found was overall, again, not as individuals, overall, it didn't change their behavior. And so our thought was bring it back, make it more simple. And it's possible that more folks would either get back into hunting, shoot more deer, or re-engage in hunting if they kind of stepped out of the game. That was our thought process. The other piece, I think Mark shared with this with you guys yesterday, there's this, my neighbor's killing all the deer thought out there. And some folks don't know that. And so they're just swirling.
I will give way to other committees.
Yeah, I just want to voice strong support for that. So good work. And that's directed towards the commission and the agency.
The amendment.
For what's being discussed now, yes, sir.
Any other commissioners?
Yeah, I'd like to say a little something. We Hank and Brad to a point, and I live with this in Fayette and Hardeman County. Of course, Brad's in Madison County. We have lost hunters, and to say that the hunters are still killing the same number, not increasing, I think that's incorrect because of the number of hunters we've lost. The opportunities presented has helped keep that number up. I also think it just doesn't make, you know, the bloom is off the rose with CWD. You're not going to be able to put the genie back in the bottle with this, with changing back to the original. It's going to send the wrong message that CWD is not a big deal and we don't have to worry about it anymore. And I'm hard pressed to believe that cutting opportunity for days in the field is going to increase the harvest. That just doesn't make sense to me. I know it's what you want it to do because you think it'll take the stigma off, but I don't think the stigma is, you know, that stain is going to be with us, and we can try to do the best we can, but I'm for this amendment, and you know, we need to stay after this. We don't need to back up. And so I'm fully support this amendment. Thank you.
Anybody else? Mr. Butt.
What did we conclude as far as the recommended? Like Commissioner Cox, I'm supportive of this amendment and all of the emphasis that's been put on the seriousness of the disease and trying to control the spread, but yet maintaining the opportunity. So I'm supportive of the amendment.
Mr. Wright.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm hard pressed to go against an agency recommendation when their biologists are data driven. and they realize the things that we've done have not worked with regard to having increased hunters. And I think we're destroying hunter sentiment in the area by treating it differently. I'm against the amendment, but I'm hard pressed to go against the agency for that reason. But also, public input across the state was overwhelmingly for leaving it as is, returning it to the, statewide simplicity and statewide consistency. And we have CWD permits. Yesterday it was demonstrated and it was asked if is 3 better than 2? Well, it is. Well, 33 is better than 3 because with CWD permits, there is no limit. So we'd be harvesting deer to no limit, and we would not be stopped January 31st. We could do it in February, and we could do it in March, and we could do it in April, May, and June, and July. So it's a far more effective tool if we really want to remove bucks and deer in those areas. Thank you.
Anybody else? Mr. Woods?
Well, I respect the opinion of all of my fellow commissioners, and fortunately, I don't reside in a CWD area. Hope I never do. I concur with Commissioner Wright. We've tried this for several years, and that the agency's recommendation should at least be given a try to see if the harvest rate does pick up and the hunters are more satisfied. So if it's appropriate at this time, I would propose. Okay.
Yes, Commissioner
Joe,
Cox.
Commissioner Woods stated that the harvest has gone, and that's not right, is it? The harvest has gone up. It's just not as much as you would like for it to have gone up.
I'm going to look at Mark. I'm pretty
We went
sure.
from 1.7 something to 1.9 something per hunter. Is that not right?
So yeah, that's the deer per hunter number. So the average number of deer has increased 0.6%. But the overall harvest, because as you said, the number of hunters is going down, the overall harvest has been slowly declining. And there's some variation in there. There's some years where it gets close to what harvest was historically, but overall it's trending down.
And the only other comment I'd make is and I thank you for that. The public sentiment across the state that everything needs to be the same is a little bit envious. I believe that this area is getting treated differently, but I don't think the rest of the state quite understands what we're dealing with. I mean, we've got the Ames plantation that basically has no deer on it. And our biologists have came to us 6 or 7 years ago and this was the science. And I know you say it hadn't worked. I disagree. I think it has. I think we've held the numbers per deer and to keep it up where it would have fallen more if we did, but taking away the opportunity goes against what you guys know. You're trying to kill more deer, but I just don't, I just don't believe that will try to keep this from spreading to hinder. So I think staying aggressive with it is the way to go. Thanks.
Commissioner Bullock.
Yeah, hey, I agree with Commissioner Cox. I think the agency has done a lot of positive things for CWD to this point, from the incinerator to the different programs to the staff that they have that help manage this. Now, this is just Monty's opinion. I think Mother Nature is going to handle some of this. There's only a limited amount of what we can actually do as an agency to control this and do for this disease. I know how important whitetail deer hunting is to the state of Tennessee and to each commissioner here. But I do support the aggressive approach for Unit 1. The only thing is, the only thing I had in question was the Ernabuck. In the other, it says Ernabuck and CWD positive counties, 17. So in Unit 1, Ernabuck program applies to Unit 1, right?
Every positive county, and there are 17 counties in Unit 1, 2, and then one county in Unit 3. So those 17 counties are
Right.
Wherever
Okay.
we have a positive
Okay.
animal
Yeah, they just weren't, I didn't know the total,
number.
that's, and I understand the bucks are the one that travel more aggressive in this spread. And I think the big thing we all need to remember is this is not, it is a problem today, but it will be a greater problem in 5 years and in 10 years down the road. This is something we're trying to combat a decade down the road, not just right now. So I hope it doesn't affect Henry County worse than what it has now with 2 positive cases. But in 10 years, if we don't do something positive, aggressive like we are today, it could. I'm not crazy about the Earn a Buck program, to be honest with you, but I think it's a good step.
Anybody else? Okay, Commissioners, before us, we have the amendment from the wildlife as presented on the screen, and I will take a motion and a second to approve the amendment as presented. Okay, ready for the vote. Okay. All right. So we're going to vote on the amendment. I'm sorry, we did have the motion a second. So, Mary, would you please call the roll? To clarify, a yes vote is for the amendment, a no vote is against the amendment as presented.
Monty Blue,
Yes.
Stan Butt,
Yes.
Wally Childress. Rhonda Moody.
Yes.
Chip Saltzman. Tommy Woods.
No.
Hank Wright.
No.
Jimmy Granberry.
No.
Please recapture the vote, please.
That is 7 noes, 7 yeses.
No. 7 no's.
Chairman Granberry, that is 7 noes and 5 yeses.
Okay, motion fails to move the amendment. I'm sorry. Amendment not adopted.
Mr. Chairman, this is the committee amendment for the turkey management units and seasons as presented by the Wildlife Committee.
Okay, Joe, let's move to the.
That's it right there, sir.
Okay, we'll just open up the floor to discussion. I know we have 4 or 5 amendments embedded in this slide, so we'll just, you want to take one at a time, Joe, and you can talk what that amendment is.
Sure. I guess we can go through the highlighted portions there. So the first one for consideration would be the 2 bearded turkeys. And that would be statewide as a committee recommended.
Okay, you've heard the proposed amendment from the Wildlife Committee for a 2-bird limit statewide. You want to include one of those, Jake, in that part of the motion?
Your preference, sir.
Okay, why don't we do that? Why don't we include that in there? So it's a 2-bird limit statewide with a 1 Jake of those 2 as it currently reads in the regs. So I'll open up the floor for discussion.
Mr. Chairman, I was going to wait, but I'll take the opportunity. We spent $1.5 million and 7 years studying turkeys. And except for the delivery of the results and opinions of the men that did the final tally, if I'm not mistaken, our biologists got the results of the study and they looked at them. They looked at that data and made their recommendations based on a myriad of things, I'm sure, but the study was one of them, and made the recommendation that they made. and Commissioner Wright mentioned that the agencies studied and recommendations, and so here's the same argument. This is what these gentlemen have come up with, and I think it's the right thing to do to follow. We go by the science on all these amendments. We need to follow the agency's recommendation.
Anybody else? Commissioner Blue.
I was going to ask Roger. Roger, I had a phone call from a gentleman, Keith Hickman, last night, is integral in the state NWTF board. Did we get a letter from the NWTF recommending or supporting anything?
We did not. I did reach out to them for if they wanted to provide any kind of official position, and they have not sent an official position.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else?
What?
Go ahead,
Joe,
Commissioner.
I would like, can anybody tell me the statistics? I know I was looking at it and I talked to Mr. Landreth and a few others. And I think, one of the things that jumped out at me was he said 37% of the birds, 37% of the total harvest was killed in the first 3 days last season. 37% of the total harvest was killed in the first. In only the last 10 days or 14 days, only 5.7% of the harvest was in the last 3 days or 2 weeks of the season. I'm sorry. 2 weeks of the season was 5.7% of the total harvest last season. And I hate to even ask this, but have you got the numbers on the juvenile hunt again from last year or this year, and the number on what we've harvested so far for this season, the first 3 days?
We shared that slide yesterday, I believe.
Yeah, I know. I was just wondering if you had the information off the top of your head. Do you know it, Roger?
Well, it was roughly
128 to be exact.
I couldn't read you right. Okay.
He may
Around
have the numbers we
2,000.
shared.
Around 2,000 for juvenile hunt.
Oh, juvenile.
Well, for juvenile
Yeah.
hunt, yeah.
Yeah, 2128. Of those, 239 were killed in the delayed area.
Okay. All right. What?
That's this year.
Right. And last year, pretty much same numbers.
2,057 last year and 190 in the delayed areas.
And what is that compared to the previous years?
Commissioner,
How much up is that?
we're pulling up that slide that we shared yesterday. Might be easier for y'all. And if I might comment, I haven't seen Mr. Landers' numbers about percentages. I think it's fair to say that regardless of if it's a dove season or turkey season, other seasons, there is a surge of folks that hunt at the beginning. It's an opening day effect.
Sure.
And the later you get in the turkey season, it's warmer. There's other things that happen, boating season. And so it's fair to say that a lot of the harvest is in the front part of the season. But beyond that, I haven't seen his numbers. We haven't calculated any percentages around those.
Well, I can remember used to when we hunted in the original in March season, you wore insulated clothing and the birds may not gobble as good as what they are. Now we go to the season opening day. Now you got to wear tick spray, but you got birds gobbling all around you if you're in the right places. So yeah, I'd love to see that slide if you got it.
We're looking for it.
Come back to that, and while they look for anybody else have any comments on this, the 2 bird limit and the one being a jake. Bearded hens, I'm sorry. Yeah, that's addition. We didn't put that in there. You got some music to play, Monty? You can sing or something?
I can tell a story.
Okay. So the director pulled this up on his phone.
Could do
and just in time, we have it on the screen. So youth is on the left. That starts in 2019 and goes through this current year. Opening weekend of the regular statewide turkey season is on the right, and starting in 2019, coming all the way through 2024.
There you go. Take a picture.
Hey, thank you all for that. I mean, that's pretty good data right there.
You done, Commissioner Blue?
I'm done.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, I think at this point, you want to vote on this portion of the amendment? This is right. So I need a motion and a second to vote on the two-bird limit and one being a Jake. Do I have a motion? So moved. Moved and seconded by Commissioner Wright and Commissioner Davenport. Any further discussion? Mary, you take the roll, please.
Monty Blue,
Yes.
Stan Butt,
No.
Wally Childress. Bill Cox,
Nope.
Greg Davenport,
Yes.
Chris Devaney, Ford Little,
Yes.
Rhonda Moody,
Yes.
Chip Saltzman,
Yes.
Tommy Woods,
Yes.
Hank Wright,
Yes.
Commissioner Granbery. That's 8 yeses.
Yes.
Oh, Jimmy Granbery. Sorry. Sorry.
That's all right.
Commissioner Granbery, that is 10 yeses and 2 nos.
Amendment passes. Next item, please, Chief Benedict.
Yes, sir. So we're going to continue to go through these amendments from the Wildlife Committee on the turkey management units. I will go back to the start dates. Yesterday, Mark shared, the agency recommendation was a Saturday closest to April 7th, right? And so that was picked so that we never go into Memorial Day weekend. And what the committee recommends is on the screen here, so that it would be the first Saturday in April for the youth hunt, Saturday and Sunday hunt, and then the start date would be the second Saturday in April. And so there are some years where the calendar, if this is the language in the proclamation, the calendar would allow turkey season to go into Memorial Day weekend. So we had that last year, and there were some concerns from the public about that, but just want to make that note. And so perhaps, Mr. Chairman, you might want to consider that as a full commission.
Thank you for that, Joe. I need a motion and a second to open the floor for discussion on the amendment to the opening date of April 1st for youth and the second Saturday in April for the full season for the rest of the state.
So
Second? Motion and a second. All right, I'll open the floor for discussion.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Cox, you're recognized.
for 50 years, the opening of the regular season was on the Saturday closest to April the 1st. If we go as the agency recommends, that'll go to a week later to the April the 7th, and the youth will get that opening weekend, which would be really good. So I don't think we lose anything. And if we go with the recommendation of the amendment, there will be some years that the season doesn't open till April the 14th. So you're basically taking a week away and not giving it back like we're trying to do. You're keeping that week of prime turkey hunting. And you look at the harvest and say it's the same and all that, but you're taking days away. If I propose to take a week off the end of duck season and close it on the 24th of January, there would be a volcano explosion. And I think it's unfair to the turkey hunters to take a week away from them. Another week away. So I get with the juniors, the youth, I think it's great, but a dad can take a kid the second week too. So I think we ought to follow the agency recommendation and open the Saturday closest to April the 7th.
Anybody else?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Butt?
I think the amendment was placed for consideration of consistency and being that the first Saturday would always be the same, the second Saturday would always be the same. But after further consideration, I would tend to agree with the agency recommendation and with what Commissioner Cox has said, because I think that presents a compromise, and I think most hunters have already settled on that's what they thought we were going to do. So I would support the agency recommendation.
Mr. Wright, you're recognized.
Yeah, just a quick point out that the latest it could be is the 14th. This year was the 13th, and it worked really well. If with the agency's recommendation, the only reason I agree with Commissioner Childress is that it could push the youth into March as early as the 27th, I believe, and it could be cold. And I I can't tell you how excited I am about youth success, so I'm supportive of Commissioner Childress' amendment.
Anybody else? Mary, please call the roll.
Lonnie Blue,
Yes.
Stan Butt,
No.
Wally Childress, Bill Cox, Greg Davenport,
Yes.
Chris Devaney, Ford Little, Rhonda Moody, Chip Saltzman, Tommy Woods, Chairman, that's 9 and 3 noes.
Amendment passes. Chief Benedict.
Yes, sir. I think the next one we will take is the fall county closures. So the recommendation, I'll just pop the next slide up, was to close fall turkey season in the counties listed here, which would include the west unit, and then there's 4 counties along the Alabama line.
You see the slide. Joe, at this point, you might give a little clarity on the fact that this is going to change the WMA proclamation as well, because some of those counties would be included.
Right.
We'll get to that in more detail, but I just want to make everybody aware of that.
Correct. There are wildlife management areas in those counties listed that we would then have to close the season, the fall season, because of this change to the overall statewide season.
Okay, you see the amendment on the board. I'll entertain a motion in a second.
So moved.
Second, moved and seconded. Any discussion? Commissioner Butt, you're recognized.
I think this is a worthy amendment. I think that if we take adaptive harvest management in consideration, I'd rather err on the side of caution and continued study rather than change it at this point because of the boots on the ground report. Limited number of birds in many of these counties, so I would support the amendment.
But anybody else? Seeing none?
Lonnie Blue,
Aye.
Stan Butt,
Yes.
Wally Childress, Bill Cox, Greg Davenport,
Yes.
Chris Devaney, Ford Little, Rhonda Moody, Chip Saltzman, Tommy Woods, Hank Wright, Jimmy Granbery.
Yes.
All ayes.
Amendment passes. Chief Benedict.
I believe the last one here for your consideration is the amendment from the committee to not allow bearded hens to be taken. I just want to ask for clarity. This would be in all the seasons, fall and spring. Is that correct? Was that the intent of the amendment?
Commissioner Childress.
Thank you.
Okay, you've heard the amendment from Chief Benedict. It's bearded hens in fall and spring season. It would not be allowed to be harvested. Any questions or comments? Mary, please call the roll.
Lonnie Blue,
Yes.
Stan Butt,
Yes.
Wally Childress, Bill Cox, Greg Davenport,
Yes.
Chris Devaney, Ford Little, Rhonda Moody, Chip Saltzman, Tommy Woods, Hank Wright, Jimmy Granbery.
Yes.
All ayes.
Amendment passes. Chief Benedict.
I believe that was all the amendments from the committee. Oh,
Okay, so.
my apologies, Commissioner Granbery. I forgot the two. No, we did the two bearded.
We did.
We did the two turkeys.
There's one bird limit in the, what about the counties?
Sorry, my assistant chief.
Are you good?
We're good. Thank you.
Okay, commissioners, so what we have for us now is.
Chair,
Yes, sir.
can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
Is there not an inconsistency with you saying 2 bearded turkeys and then you saying you can't kill a bearded hen? Should we not change that language in some form or fashion?
We will correct that. Yes.
Okay. And my second, and I'm sorry, I know I'm out of order. I thought one of the things, I hope I don't ever make the mistake, but if I understood correctly, there's going to be, for lack of a better term, education of our law enforcement officers that if someone makes that mistake, there may be a little bit of grace given to someone in the right situation if they accidentally kill a bearded hen. Is that my understanding?
I'll defer to the director or the law enforcement division.
And Commissioner, we'll take that on a case-by-case
Right.
basis.
That's my
We have an
understanding.
experienced hunter, and we can look at their harvest to see that. I think that they probably will be issued a citation if it's a youth or a beginning hunter. Yes, we will have some brevity there to take it on a case-by-case basis.
I just would like our officers to have that discretion, and I'd like us to make it clear to them that they have that discretion if they have a young hunter sitting there with his mom or dad or her mom and dad, and they see that and they get excited and they shoot that turkey accidentally. And as long as they understand they have that flexibility.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Commissioner Little. Great point. Commissioner Davenport, you recognize.
Yeah, I hope I'm not out of order as well. To build on Commissioner Little's point, does the hunting guide have an identification of what a hen looks like?
We don't have that now. We have the definition, the difference between a Jake and adult gobbler.
Okay.
We can certainly add that in there.
Maybe a consideration.
Thank you.
It's a great point. Okay, so to recap, and I'll let Chief Benedict go back through this, but we will now vote on the proclamation as amended. And so
Chairman
could you
Granbery.
recap that, please, for us before we go for a vote, please? And then we'll have discussion.
Sure, I may ask. So we will have, let me go back to the agency just for this is what the recommendation from the agency was with units and the season dates and bag limits as presented there. And the turkey recommendation. Two bird bags statewide passed, one Jake passed, the fall county closures passed. Okay, and so the dates, so this slide is correct. Everything on here passed.
Okay, so you've seen the proclamation 2410 as amended. Do I have a motion for approval?
I have a question before.
Well, we will.
Go
We'll
ahead.
get to discussion
Go
in just a
ahead,
second.
yeah.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? Second. Motion and a second. Any further discussion on the proclamation 2410 as amended, or are there any other amendments that any commissioner wish to bring to the floor for consideration? Commissioner Butt, you're recognized.
Just for clarification, where was the one bird limit amendment included in those areas? Those 8 or 9 counties, 9 or 10 counties.
The amendment that, I believe the amendment from yesterday was to close the fall season in those counties.
Close the fall season, yeah.
Yes, sir. I don't remember we had a.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Too much stuff going on.
And that would also be reflected, Joe, in the proclamation for the WMAs. You'll clarify it there as well, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, we have a motion and a second on the motion and a second on 2410 as amended. Any further discussion and or amendments that any of the commissioners wish to bring before we take a vote? You're voting on the entire proclamation. Okay, I'll do a voice vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Joe, thank you. Let's take a break.
Johnny's and all grew up together, so it's going to be a fun conversation. Thank you for being here.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Yeah. So, well, let's jump in first. Just get to know Ed. Ed, tell us a little bit about yourself. I kind of had a short introduction there, but I'd love to hear more.
Well, you may not want to go back this far, but I grew up in Kentucky, went into service, got out of service, went to University of Missouri, got a wildlife degree, and came to work for Tennessee.
Awesome. So was Tennessee your first wildlife position?
Basically, yeah. I worked for Kentucky's wildlife people while I was going to school some, but this was my first full-time job, and it was a great one.
Awesome. And you obviously grew up in the outdoors, hunting and fishing, or was it something you fell into?
No, I grew up in it.
Yeah. So what was your favorite animal to chase growing up?
Oh, no question about it. Bobwhite quail was our favorite thing to hunt for, but it slowly went down in population, and now I'd love to see those things come back, but I don't know if we'll ever be able to see them like we used to.
Yeah. Yeah, I know a lot of people the same way. Even younger generations would love to see them come back as well, to have that opportunity like you all did back in the day. Yeah. We'll dive more into that later. I know we had that as a topic to talk about today, so that'll be fun to jump in. And we'll do more of your work with the agency and learn more.
I've been a neighbor at Penrod for 50 years, and both his boys were roommates of mine. We went to engineering school together at the University of Tennessee and grew up hunting and fishing and playing ball together.
Just having a good old time.
So now I'm 40 years into an engineering career with Alan Hoschel here in Nashville, and
all right,
still getting out there and chasing those deer and turkeys.
Awesome.
We grew up hunting together. There's just boys and Keith and I, and growing up, there was no better knowledge for us than to go ask Ed something about hunting and fishing. And
don't blame me for that.
so he's probably the blame for the addiction we have and what we do, because he was a wealth of knowledge when there was no knowledge.
We took the very first
hunter safety course. We didn't know where we were going. The very first hunter safety course they were doing is probably early 70s.
75.
And Ed said, y'all all need to be here at this time. Everybody show up, and I didn't know what we were going for. And then
you had to teach that course, did you, Mr. P?
Well,
he did that night.
One of the things that sort of helped start that was the fact that we got the youth deer hunt statewide. And before they could go on that, they needed to go through that hunter safety course. And it sort of worked, both of them worked together to help each other promote it.
Yeah. So are you saying you took the first hunter safety course in Tennessee?
I don't know about Tennessee, but Murray County.
Murray County.
Well, they all happened at the same time. There were like 4 or 5 that happened at the same time. It was the first hunter safety course they did, and he was kind of
it was a big part of that.
Start that.
Yeah. Very well, Johnny.
To support Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency, whether it's land acquisition or anything, we help speed that process up for anything that they do. And that's kind of what I do. I work for the foundation to help support the agency.
Yeah.
With any needs they have.
And one of the big things that the one big fundraiser y'all do every year is coming up, and I think it's probably full now, but tell folks about that.
The Governor's One Shot is a kind of a flagship fundraiser for us. It happens here in about a week, and it's a turkey hunt, and they were kind of all over the United States. A lot of states had Governor's One Shot turkey hunts as fundraisers, and ours just happens to be the biggest. It's a really big event for turkey hunters, and if you want a guide on the turkey hunt, or if you'd like to hunt in the turkey hunt sometime, you can contact me. Go on the website, you can find my email and contact me. We'll get you in there.
Perfect. Yeah. And Keith, I know you participate in that hunt as well, and I saw some photos from back in the day hunting with Daryl Singletary.
Oh yeah, double barrel Daryl.
Man, he was a great guy, and
he needed both barrels.
Yeah,
I'm Daryl Singletary.
He was a great singer. He's a great entertainer, and he was a terrible shot, but he was a great friend.
And he was a great supporter of the agency.
Yes, he was.
Oh yes.
Yeah. So we miss him for sure, and just want to throw that in there real quick before we deep. But so Ed, let's come back and just kind of touch on your career. I'm excited to hear about some of the work that you've done with the agency and the work that you did and kind of helping and grow deer populations, grow turkey populations. But just kind of let's start with deer, and I'd love to hear some of those stories of stocking deer.
Basically, I started work in the early 60s, and Tennessee had a deer stalking program already in place going, but it primarily shifted from getting deer from East Tennessee, from Clarksville Base, which was a naval base within the Fort Campbell area. And from that area, a lot of deer were stalked in Middle and West Tennessee. And then later on, after some of those stalkings worked out down at AEDC, we started taking deer from those areas and stalking other areas. So it was a progression of just taking one step at a time, and it moved pretty fast. The deer sometimes were faster than the stalkers were.
I bet that was pretty exciting trying to catch those deer, trap those deer, and move them, and know that you're making a huge impact, because a lot of people, they didn't see a deer, right?
Well, we wasn't all that confident.
Oh, really?
Because a lot of the counties really had dog problems. You know, they'd be wanting to dog the deer, and at certain times, some of those herds didn't hold up under that kind of pressure.
Sure.
And had to go back in and restock and all.
A lot more spotlight in those days too, wasn't there?
There was a lot of different types of law enforcement work that had to be done.
I hear you.
And the officers did a good job. And we talked to a lot of the judges, and they clamped down pretty hard on somebody poaching deer out there. Matter of fact, at that time, it could cost you your truck.
Yeah. Well, y'all were spending a lot of time doing this work, and then for somebody to poach them, it was just ridiculous anyway. So.
Well, it didn't. We're losing a deer now doesn't seem very much, but back then, whenever you only put out maybe 15 or 20 deer, and you possibly lost your buck or something, it was critical.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's an amazing success story. You hear folks saying, well, we didn't see a deer when I was a kid, and now you just have to walk out your back door, and you got, in a subdivision grazing or driving down the interstate highways or whatever, you see a deer just about every day.
Yeah. Sometimes I wonder if we're too efficient.
Well, I was thinking about this the other day. Some folks say it back in the good old days, but I don't know. Right now, hunting and fishing is really good, and
except for the quail.
Yeah. Quail. And since you mentioned that, our guys are putting boots on the ground on habitat and trying to put the perfect habitat out there for those quail and bring those back. And I know it's been a hard battle, and ever since you were here, Ed, it's been a battle from the beginning, right?
Well, we really don't know what the problem. Everybody has different scenarios.
Sure.
What the problem is and everything, and it's quite likely we just don't know, and we just about the only thing we can say. If we did know, we'd probably start at a different angle. But habitat is certainly one of the factors, but there's been all kinds of others. Predation and various others. Matter of fact, even hunting might have been questionable at one time, but I think most people realize that the regulations we had then, that was not a factor in the population going down.
Yeah. Yeah. And, sportsmen are called sportsmen for a reason. I mean, they know when they're shooting too many. They know when, they're hurting the population. They, even with the liberal deer seasons we have now, folks don't kill 3 does a day in, Middle Tennessee. And
we didn't shoot coveys down below, 7 or 8 birds either.
Our dads would talk to us about that before we left to go quail hunting. Says, you don't shoot the coveys down.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, back on deer, Johnny was telling me a funny story about Murray County. Did y'all stalk deer in Murray County?
No, but we were pretty close.
I think they had one guy there that was a coon hunter, and he was kind of had a lot of influence there and didn't.
But the thing about it, I'm not too sure that even with the restoration effort, it accelerated deer coming back. But I think eventually the deer would have moved in. I mean, we didn't stalk coyotes, and they've come in pretty good.
Yeah.
They're about it. And
armadillos.
Yeah. So I think that we maybe were a catalyst in getting the deer going a little bit faster, but
Sure.
it would have probably come on.
Well, and then the change in the number of hunters we have too. You see a difference in how many deer or goats or whatever are coming out of the population because not as many hunters as we used to have. All right.
In the woods and being sure our families, we need to get back to that.
I mean, we
get
had some
these-
property to hunt, public.
Yep.
Yeah. You had more.
We had some access. So down in Hickman County, especially, we used to drive from Murray to Hickman County every weekend to go deer hunting, and we had
where the deer were.
Yeah, and we were blessed with a private property owner that gave us access, but he had joined all this public property that was right next to him, and we had some good times down there.
Yeah. I bet so.
And we also had another motive. The only way we could keep them out of trouble was keep them out hunting. and if they were hunting,
we're too tired to get into trouble otherwise.
So can you tell a story on them getting in trouble, or should we keep that a secret?
I believe what took place down in Murray County, you probably need to leave it
there. Maybe after the mics are turned on, we could have another conversation. But that's great. I enjoy hearing these stories, and I know with turkeys too. Turkeys has been a big restoration effort for the agency, and we've seen a growth in turkeys. Were you a part of that as well?
Yeah, that's deer and turkey restoration was two projects that was Pitt and Robinson funded, and they both were, to me, a worthwhile thing that really benefited the sportsman in the long run.
Yeah.
It didn't take off like lightning, but it eventually came around. The turkey sometimes would more or less mushroom real fast. Deer quite a bit slower, but that's just the way population grows for those two species.
Yeah.
But the turkey, gosh, I can remember only turning loose in a county maybe 15 hens and 2 or 3 gobblers.
Mm-hmm.
But you could wait 5 years and you could open that season up and you would have a huntable population. That type of regulation still applied to the deer too. A lot of people liked that 5-year opening because boy, there was going to be some really nice bucks that first couple of years.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So you're talking about a nice buck. Do you think where these deer originally come from, the genetics of them is different in different areas? Like I'm not. You might speak to where I know they were.
Where they come
you
from.
trapped them. The ones that come from ADC and the ones that come from Cheatham. Did they come from different areas originally?
Originally, there was some various stockings that had deer from various areas. Yeah, they didn't all come from the same. However, a large portion of the stockings after the 60s were from deer out of the Clarksville base, which actually came from the Southwest. And then those deer were put in areas, and sometimes we stocked from those cells. So actually, that was still deer coming from a Southwestern type deer.
Okay. Did any of them come from any other areas like Northeast or some Canada?
I think I can't remember all the details on it, but there was, I think, a few deer from Michigan or one of the lake
Wisconsin.
states that was released up around Crossville near Catoosa.
Yeah.
But sometimes those populations were so small versus the large number of deer that the odds were really probably in favor of the local deer, ones that's already there doing the breeding. But I mean, because we didn't start out with 2 deer from one area and make sure that that species stayed without being interrupted by any other genes from other deer.
I just wondered if that's where we're seeing different genetics is because some of them come from Michigan area and some of them come from the Southeast, and in the area near Crossville, they got a different looking rack on them than they do. And
certainly genetics are going to in that, but the deer from Clarksville Base, then deer from Clarksville Base and AEDC went up on Carter Mountain, which y'all call something else now, but it's down there in Franklin. Yeah, in Franklin. some people, I think right now, even think that there's some difference in the, really there may be, but it's happened in a few short years that they've been out because the sources were actually the same and only 1 year apart from stocking AEDC to stocking Carter Mountain. It's the same.
It's interesting that we were thinking that that's where the genetics was different, but I guess it's kind of the
one of the things that may affect people thinking the rut is different and all is elevation does have effect. And Carter Mountain is quite a bit higher than down on AEDC. So that may, there may be something to that. We'll probably never know. But if you want to hear some good rumors, go to one of the checking stations or campgrounds and
everybody's got
let the hunter.
Everybody's got
Facebook.
Facebook. Everybody's got an opinion, and yours is wrong.
That's the hunt camp these days. Facebook. Yeah.
And you'll hear some good rumors. And, I know one of the things that always struck me is we had quite a bit of pressure on the bucks whenever because if you wanted the deer herd to grow, you protected your does and harvest. It even came out then that we don't have enough bucks to even breed all the does. I mean, and that wildlife center at Georgia, it was just getting started pretty good. And they had a ovarian analysis workshop for some of us. And we had collected a large volume of
I remember those
reproductions.
Collect the ovaries when you shot a doe in those days.
And come to find out after evaluating this stuff, and a lot of good information comes out of the lab. Sometimes we think field, but out of that, almost 100% of those does had been bred. Along with the fact that quite a few fawns were being bred, which nobody really we hadn't heard that part of the rumor.
Yeah.
And you can see it at AEDC because they had a boom in population down there. There's so many that they opened up one of the first areas opened up doe seasons to try to cull population down.
Yeah.
And so really you got to be careful of some of those rumors you hear. And if you can check it out in the lab and make sure that that is a fact. But
science is going to win.
Yeah, you got to be careful on those rumors too. Throughout the years, there's been all kinds of rumors going around, So, and it's funny what you hear on social media and out there, people talking and things like that. You mentioned deer check and the check stations, but before we started the show, you said one of the best things that's ever happened was the online check-in.
Oh, without a doubt.
And I mean, no offense, but younger guy like me thinks that's great. Some of the older folks out there miss those check station days, but you're sitting here telling me at 88 that you think that's the greatest thing.
Yeah, it's for several reasons. Not only for the benefit of the sportsman, I think it's a good tool.
Just kidding. You can have it.
Welcome back. At this time, I'd like to call on Wildlife Chairman Hank Wright.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think just as a result of passing some of these proclamations, I think it'd be beneficial for Lieutenant Colonel Dale Grandstaff to help us with just a clear understanding of what is and what is not depredation. That I think it'd be helpful to all.
Well, with the passage of this nighttime coyote and at night and during that time frame, but you can hunt them during the daytime. But the 70-4-115, the destruction of disposal of wildlife, that part A in there, the TCA code says the owner of lands may destroy any wild animals when they're destroying property upon such lands. And that's the key part of that. So We want to make sure we want the public, if they have an issue on their property, we want them to be able to take care of it. If they have an issue with big game, of course, they need to call the game warden and get that taken care of and get a permit for it. If it's coyotes, raccoons, we would prefer them to call the game warden and just discuss it. What's your issue? But it needs to be property that you own, such as chickens. They're destroying your chickens. They're destroying your cattle. And it doesn't need to be something that is property of the state, like wild turkeys, deer. That is not property that you own. And I think I could probably ask General Counsel to weigh in on that a little bit because of the code and maybe help me describe that a little bit more. Tori, you want to add anything to that?
Well, it's a good point. The property of the wildlife thing being on, chickens, cattle, any other lives in the past where someone is depredating coyotes because they're killing turkey poults. Well, the turkey poults are property of the state. Therefore, they need to be reaching out to the game warden on that issue because, again, property of the state versus actually owned property.
Thank you. I don't think I have anything. Director, do you have anything to add to that? Yes, just to be clear for the public on this new season that was just passed, if you're coon hunting at night, that does not allow you to shoot the coyotes with your .22 rifle if you come up on them, because this is a coyote season of a shotgun only season. So just keep that in mind, that there are two separate seasons.
I just have a clarifying question. Would it allow the landowner to designate an individual to help them in the depredation process?
Yes.
Okay, and I'm assuming pen raised quail, if you're trying to reestablish quail, that's your property, that's your livestock.
If you brought that in as a
Yes.
pen raised quail, like Commissioner Woods brought up the last time, yes, that would be part of something you've purchased or you put on your property. Yes.
Any other commissioners have any questions of Lieutenant Colonel? You good, Commissioner Wright?
Yes.
Thanks so much, Lieutenant Colonel.
Thank you.
Joe, before you get to the next proclamation, I would like to make a request to the staff now that we've passed this nighttime Cody and coyote, and to keep track of the number of permits that are issued. And if there's any way that I don't know if the permit will require any kind of tagging in or not. I'm not sure how that'll work.
There's no permit that was passed.
Okay, never mind. Thank you.
Let's just on that note, just a second. There was no permit passed, but there was a discussion about that. And that was kind of left off. Do we need to have a discussion about placeholder permit or establishing a permit or notice that there's going to be a permit or anything like that? Do we need it, or do you need to come back to us with that? But it's now the time to do it, I think.
It's at the will of the commission, but if you decide to pass a permit, that fee will not come in, and general counsel talk about that. So therefore, you would not be able to start hunting until after July of next year.
All right, and we discussed that. So could we, is there a way in the hunting guide to say there will be a permit to
We would have
notify?
You all would have to establish a permit here to be able to do that. Right now, they would have to have a hunting license to be able to go out, because this is now a hunting season for coyotes and bobcats at night. So all it requires is their hunting license. So if you got a sportsman's license, you're covered. If you got a hunting license, you're going to be covered for that. So there's really no permit that you all pass to add to that.
But we discussed doing it, I believe. It was just kind of, I know, but I just want to see if we decide to do it, in October or whenever the the budget and they talk about these things, is there something we need to do now to establish a permit? I'll kind of leave that up to you, but I thought we need to talk about it before I don't want to delay hunting. We see how to work with that. I don't know. Establish a permit to work with that. I don't know. We establish a permit. I don't know. We don't want income if there's going to be a permit to be, which I think is appropriate, but the semantics of that, I don't know how exactly to suggest.
Mr. Cox, let General Counsel Grimes handle
that. Commissioner, the permits are set out in the rule, the permit and license rule. And again, if we're going to charge a fee, now we could bring a no fee permit, but we need 90 or 60 days or 52 days is this kind of statutory framework to bring a rule change to add that in the rule. So the question really becomes, when do you want this coyote bobcat season to begin? And if you want a fee associated with it, that fee cannot begin to be collected until July 1 of 25 per statutory restrictions on bringing a rule change.
So we could establish the hunt and not the permit and come back later in the rule and establish the permit for a fee.
That's correct.
All right, thank you.
Chief Benedict, you got the floor.
Excellent. Well, commissioners, I think we're on the downhill slide here. We have a couple of real easy proclamations to consider. Agency recommends establishing Holly Fort Creek Refuge. This is in Henry County. It's about 125 acres. And as we mentioned yesterday, the actual hunting seasons, if this is established, will be established in the Wildlife Management Area Proclamation.
Okay, you see this proclamation before you, and there are no amendments. Do I have a motion and a second?
Motion.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Proc passes. Thank you, Joe. Next.
Next area we'd like to establish is the Catoosa Ridge Refuge, Proclamation 2405. This is 1,750 acres just adjacent to west of the Catoosa Ridge WMA. And again, the seasons will be set in the WMA Proclamation.
2405 is in front of you. I have a motion by Commissioner Cox. Do I have a second? Second by Commissioner Moody. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. 2405 passes.
Okay, the next one we have is the Wildlife Management Area, Refuge and Public Hunting Area, Season and Bag Limit Proclamation 2406. Commissioners, Wally went through a lot of individual slides yesterday, and we created a summary here today. The statewide regulations that the agency is proposing are to prohibit salt products, minerals, and other consumable products on WMAs. There's no change to the duck blind list. The agency is recommending that dogs must be restrained unless you're hunting or training on WMAs. Furbearers would be allowed to be taken when they coincide with other open season on WMAs, and that's all the furbearers. And then when fall turkey season is open, it would be open on WMAs with statewide seasons. The Wildlife Committee amendments in the big game proclamation, there were closed fall turkey season for 11 counties, and therefore on WMAs with statewide turkey seasons in those 11 counties, they will not have a fall season. So this is simply a result of the big game proclamation change. These are the WMAs that would be affected and would change if this amendment from the committee passes to not be open during the fall turkey season. Yes, sir.
Okay, so moved. Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, now we have before you amendment. I have a motion and a second on the amendment as presented.
So moved.
Second. Second. Mary, would you call the roll? Oh, I'm sorry. Motion and a second, and do we have any other discussion? This is what I was talking about earlier when we were in the turkey, where it referred back to this when we close those counties. All right, Mayor, would you call the roll, please?
Could we have explanation please, before we vote for the counties that are closed on that amendment?
The 11 counties that were closed in the big game proclamation is a result of the Wildlife Committee's request to close the West Tennessee counties and those lower Middle Tennessee counties.
Thank you.
This is just a
Makes it consistent.
required adjustment because that did pass in the big game proclamation.
Okay, so we're voting on the amendment. And I have a motion and a second. Mary, would you please call the roll?
Monty Baloo.
Aye.
Stan Butt.
Yes.
Wally Childress. Bill Cox. Greg Davenport.
Yes.
Chris Devaney. Ford Little.
Yes.
Rhonda Moody.
Yes.
Chip Saltzman.
Yes.
Tommy Woods.
Yes.
Hank Wright.
Yes.
Jim Granbery.
Yes. Now we're back to have a motion.
I'll move.
In a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Amendment passes. I'm sorry, Proclamation 2406 passes.
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Butt?
Several hunters in West Tennessee and WMA and what's the other one? Natchez Trace. And there was some concern about wanting to open the season to the public after the quota hunts. It's been explained to me that quota hunts exist the complete season. With the consideration for harvest during the COVID period, then they're concerned if they do that, then there's no way to control the number of birds that may be taken. And so I'd just like that to go as a matter of record that this has been considered, and the input applicants that resulted, and that being the case, and less than 6% of the people, and with that being the case, and less than 6% of the people that went hunting were successful in the first two hunts. It's concerned that the number of birds on those areas are not sufficient to allow opening it for the general public for the remainder of the season versus the quota hunt. So I just wanted that to be a matter of record for those who wish to have that done, and the reason that I'm not pushing to have that done, and I'm yielding to the staff's due diligence there. So thank you for the indulgence, Mr. Chairman.
Anybody else? Joe?
Commissioners, we have the next proclamation we have for you is 2408, the taking of Raptors for Falconry. Raptors for Falconry. This agency recommendation was unchanged by the Wildlife Committee. Appreciate Dr. Jones being a colleague there, and the conversations that our staff, numerous staff, have had with the falconers. The 3 points there are to just the timing of allowable take, including the taking of these nestling birds for an additional month through July, and then passage birds may be taken year-round with a couple of exceptions for kestrels and great horned owls. So again, this is the agency recommendation that the committee passed as presented.
Okay, you've seen the staff recommendation on 2408. Do I have a motion and a second? Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Dr. Jones, would you like to say anything? Or are you good? I'm good. Okay, thanks, sir. Good. We're happy for that. So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? 2408 passes.
Mr. Chairman, the next proclamation we have to consider is a Migratory Gamebird Proclamation 2409. I'll go through this real quickly. So there were no changes from the agency's recommendation from last year in season length or bag limits. We just recommended changes to the calendar date. This is for all migratory birds, doves, all the webless birds, etc. The agency recommended the waterfowl season open on 2 Saturdays, and then the Wildlife Committee amended that recommendation and recommended a Saturday opener and then a Thursday opener.
Okay, you've seen the amendment. Need a motion and a second on the amendment. Okay, I'm sorry. A motion and a second on the proclamation. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, now we're on the amendment. Do I have a motion and a second on the amendment? Second. Any discussion? Mary, would you call the roll, please?
Monty Blue,
Yes.
Stan Butt,
Yes.
Wally Childress, Bill Cox,
Aye.
Greg Davenport,
Yes.
Chris Devaney, Ford Little, Rhonda Moody, Chip Saltzman, Tommy Woods, Hank Wright, Jimmy Granbery,
Yes.
11 yeses.
Amendment passes. Now we're voting on the proclamation as amended. Do I have a motion? Second. Motion is second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Proc passes.
Mr. Chairman, this is the proclamation you've all been waiting for. It's the last one we have. It's the request is to repeal Arnold Hollow Wildlife Management Area. It's Proclamation 24-12. You'll recall that the lease fees went up, and we weren't able to lease this piece of property. So we have to repeal this, and the effective date will be July 1st, 2024. So just a few months from now. That's the agency recommendation. There's no change from the Wildlife Committee.
Okay, you've seen the recommendation from the agency to have a motion? Second? Any discussion on this? It's unfortunate, but it is what it is, and we understand. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Proclamation passes.
That's all we have, sir.
Joe, appreciate all your hard work, and I know you've been scrambling around today and last night, and we greatly appreciate your time and effort on this. So
I've
we
got a quick
appreciate it.
question.
Go ahead.
Since the CWD zone now is gone away and we're back to same as statewide seasons, how does that affect mineral blocks and feeding and that kind of thing?
So mineral blocks and feeding and carcass transportation are in a rule. And so the CWD management zone includes all of Region 1. That's unchanged.
Okay, so it doesn't affect it.
It does not affect that.
Okay. That probably should be highlighted.
Any other questions? So I'll right back at you, Commissioner Cox, for the Budget Committee.
Thank you, sir. Frank Fisk, what have you got for us today?
Good morning, commissioners. We're still in morning. It's good. I've got the monthly budget report. I'll be reporting on February. Is this on? Yes, it is on. Okay. On our boating fund, you'll see we are on track, just slightly ahead on registration income and right on target for expense to budget. Our wildlife fund, our license income is slightly down as what we projected, and our expense to budget is slightly behind, so that may be offsetting. Our Rutland fund is sitting at $21 million. All of our withdrawals to date, except for about $500,000, have been for maintenance and operations of state-owned lands. And this slide here is the 4 major funds with the investment accounts and the SPIF balances. So if you go from left to right on the investments, you'll see. Let me describe what these are. The lifetime fund now is all of the licensed sales prior to May, and including May 7th, 2023. That fund is fixed now. We're not adding any more sales to that going forward. Those sales are now going to the wildlife fund. The next one is watchable. That's the Bluebird license plate. We're sitting at about $7.6 million on the balance on that. The wildlife fund, which is our major operating fund, sitting at 57 million rather, and boating is at 18 million. And you'll see, if you're keeping up over time, the bonds are doing a little better now. I actually have the March report, and they've done better since. So that's going in the right direction. And our SPIF, our pooled investment rate, is still about 5.3%. That's all I have, unless there's any questions.
All right, so actually, the bond fund is now above water, correct?
Yes. In total of all four of those funds, there's actually two funds, but we've seen a positive across all four. So it's going in the right direction.
Right,
Yeah.
correct.
Yeah.
Any questions for Director Fisk? Thank you, Frank.
Thank you.
That's all, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman Cox. Commissioner Butt, you're called for.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A little house cleaning responsibility here. As chairman of the audit committee, then I would like to share with the commission and the public the responsibility that approved in 2007. And thanks to our new internal auditor, who's doing an outstanding job, and with the help of our legal counsel, Grimes, then I'd like to present to the commission that we approve, as approved by the audit committee, the change in the charter. And as such, the audit committee has reviewed and approved the audit committee chair revisions. And so I'll make a motion to approve the audit committee charter as revised.
Do I have a second on that motion?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Blue. Any questions of any of the other commissioners? Okay, seeing none, I'll take a voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Audit committee charter passes. So this is the best part of the day, Joe, because there's nothing else behind this. But thank you everybody for their time and attention on this, staff, commissioners, our law enforcement. We appreciate the guests that came today. Our next meeting is a informational get together. We're going to tour Catoosa and Bridgestone Firestone. Mary will be sending out information on that. Our three biggest responsibilities in this agency as commissioners are season setting, budget, and our executive director. I remind everybody we'll have a budget meeting in July and we'll approve the budget in August. So you'll be hearing, I'm not sure you'll want to hear this, but you'll be hearing a lot from Commissioner Cox over the next couple of months as we prepare. I'm just kidding, Bill. As we prepare for the budget in August, it's a very important part of our responsibilities. So any further business from the commission? Director Maxidon? Go ahead.
I would like to request of the agency to publicize in a short form, the results of the turkey study that in my recollection say that habitat and predators are the main problems with turkeys. And if that's not correct, publicize what it is, so people know that fixing their land for turkey habitat and trapping predators will help their turkeys. I'd like to, put that out and let Emily put it together.
We don't have the full report back from them yet, but we can still put something out on predator management.
But you get what I'm talking about. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Take care of that.
Anybody else on the commission? Commissioner Blue?
Hey, last thing I have would be, as much as I would hate to not see Johnson City, or maybe at a later date, or have Tommy's hospitality, I had several people that called that said they would like to attend. They would like to have our season setting meetings when we'd have this particular season setting meeting, have it more of a neutral or a central location in the state like Nashville. just because there were several people that wanted to attend from West Tennessee, but they couldn't make it to Johnson City, obviously. So anyway, maybe just for the chairman next year's thoughts.
Thank you. Good point. Anybody else? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you.